guys want to know an easy way to meet new people and experience something new? Well, it's easier than you might think. It's as easy as joining an after-school activity. Today, I will be going over why you should be in an after-school activity. I'll talk about what an after-school activity is, the benefits from it, the positive and negatives from it, and then the time it takes. So let's talk about what an after-school activity is. An after-school activity can be defined as many things, but the general definition is any activity that a youth can participate in after the general time after school time. So an after-school activity can also be a college thing, even though generally is just talked about high school, but sports and clubs after college classes are considered after-school activities. These activities can be things like sports, so baseball, football, hockey, clubs, so a curling club might be one, then like band and choir, and then finally just any kind of community or put together event that some people might do after school. After school activities can be found anywhere because there are so many. So if you can't find the one you might want to be in, then go around the area and see if you can find one. Like I said earlier, after school activities don't technically have to be school related, even though most are funded and brought to be by a school. But you can have one with community or friends outside of the school that could be just as fun and do just as much. So there are many benefits, so let's talk about them. So right away, benefits for after-school activities there are tons. From youth.gov, they wrote saying attending an after-school activity can improve a student's academic improvement. So that means you obviously will do better in school if you're in one. And then they also said effective after-school activities can improve a classroom behavior. So those two traits themselves are very important for classroom, like studying and everything, because good grades and good academic progress in your work is obviously really good. And now by pickmykid.com, they talk about the safety part of it and say you know exactly where your child is and there's no possible chance that your child leaves the school unattended, which from a parent's standpoint, this is exactly what you want. From that hour and a half to 2 hours that you're not at home, it's safer if they're somewhere in a school or somewhere guided and not just being let out freely. So that is a great thing, and just those three things would be great for any parent and student. Other things after-school activities benefit you from is like socialism. With these events, you'll be able to meet new people, so you socialize, and socialization is just one of the main greatest traits you can have because it can just help you out in so many different ways. Other things it might help you out with is working with others. Obviously, with an after-school activity, you're usually trying to meet a goal, like in sport, winning, club, or band, succeeding in what you're doing. So you work with others and learn those traits, which obviously you want, and these working with others might lead into the future, like when you're working at a job, because your relationship and ability to work with others is very important. So now on to the amount of time they take. Obviously, after-school activities, in the name, say you have to take time out after school. And they vary depending on the after-school activity. So like sports take about 5 days a week and 2 hours each practice or more. So about 10 hours a week, which sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of it, it's really not. Band and choir, usually from around this area in specific, the practices are about 3 to 5 days and then an hour each. So again, doesn't take that much time. Clubs can vary like 1 through 6 days because they might have a meeting or get together on Saturday. And those, again, can vary on time, like an hour through 2 hours or more, depending on what kind of it is. But when you have a good instructor and are having fun, this time flies by. And when you really put 10 hours of your week into the whole week hours, it really doesn't seem like much. And like I said, if it's fun, it'll fly by. The good thing with after-school activities too is the amount of time they take allows you to participate and have fun, but then gives you enough time for your personal life at home after, so you're not always stressed out. So my final topic, I'll be going over the positives and negatives of an after-school activity. There are way more positives than negatives, and some positives are greater and some negatives are greater for some people depending on how it is. Another positive that I didn't include earlier, but those ones are the main great ones, is that that positives can make you, like, for your future with the work ethic you might gain from it, because you're always doing something 24/7. You're just kind of building a work ethic, so you just build in your mind, hey, I need to go do this. So when you're an adult, you might be more forward to doing chores and stuff, because you just know you have to do it. And with after-school activities, you just kind of gain that structure. And that leads to my other thing, structure. A positive from these is you always have a structure, which from from childmind.com says kids love to do really well when they have structure. And with these after-school activities, you have the school, which is a structure, then the extra 2 hours, which is just helping a kid out and making them better. So now on to a few negatives. The negatives really aren't that hard, but maybe you might struggle with, like, I have bad supervision, which can be bad, the travel part of it, and then funding. I say funding because a school has to fund for these after-school activities, and if there's not many kids, they might drop it or something like that. But usually they'll have enough funds and you'll be okay, like it's nothing. Traveling is probably the worst part of it all, because you might miss out on school a little bit, and that could hurt your academics. But for the most part, you won't miss that much school, and you're really only traveling 5 to 7 of the actual time you're in these activities. And then my final thing is about supervision. Obviously, everyone has gone through a coach or something in a sport, or an instructor that just hasn't been that good, has definitely not helped you. And that would be a negative in an after-school activity, but if it's something you love, that really shouldn't deter you from it. So in conclusion, I went over why you should be in an after-school activity. I talked about what it is, which is something you participate in after school for extracurricular reasons. Talked about the benefits from it, and I said most of them, but just in recap, your performance in school and your behavior in school are the main positives, and then safety. And I talked about the time, which 1 through 10 hours a week, and it seems like a long time, but when you're having fun, it just flies by, and it's not really an issue. And then finally, I talked about positive and negatives. Positives kind of outweigh the negatives, and the worst negative is traveling. It's because it costs more money, but it shouldn't be that difficult. So after hearing this speech, I want everyone to just participate in some kind of after-school activity, and if you're already in one, maybe join another one that might expand you. So that is why you should be in an after-school activity.